So you want to make a happy birthday banner. Let me show you how I made mine.
The first thing you need to do is gather your materials. You'll need fabric, felt, sewing machine, thread, scissors, iron, pen, and cardboard for your template. I just use a cereal box for mine. The first template you're going to make is a 3.5 by 4.5 inches. This is going to be for your letters. I went ahead and traced mine on my felt and just cut out all the squares. And because my pen does not erase with heat, I decided to draw my letters on the back, therefore making them backwards so that the pen wouldn't show when I put them right side up. I tried to make all parts of the letter about 1.5 inches thick. In some places where it looked a little wonky, I only made it 1 inch thick. You're going to need 13 of those squares and letters if you're doing happy birthday. If you're doing anything else, then you'll want to count out the letters. If you're going to be making a banner like mine, you're going to want to cut out your next template of cardboard that is 8 inches by 6 inches. This includes the seam allowance. You're going to need to cut 26 of these rectangles. You can choose to do 13 of one fabric and 13 of another fabric, which is what I did, or you can do 26 of all the same. On my template, I found the exact middle, then drew 1 inch above the edge and connected a line from each of the corners to make a banner shape. And you'll also need to cut 13 rectangles of batting as well. Using my template, I marked all the pieces of my batting where the indent was so that when I was sewing, I could sew in the banner shape. Sew my back piece of fabric to my batting. I moved the needle all the way to the right so it can get as close to the edge as possible. I did a 1/4 inch seam allowance. When you get to a corner, keep the needle in but lift the foot to turn the fabric so that everything is one continuous thread. Cut off the extra little triangle at the bottom. Next, making sure your front banner piece is right side up. Put the right sides together of the front piece and the back piece with the batting. For these pieces, I moved the needle back to the center, but continued to use the 1/4 inch seam allowance so that none of the previous seams show through when I turn it right side out. Once I finished sewing all those pieces together and turning them right side out, I just double check to make sure all the seams are closed, and then I will use a pen to push those corners through to make them really sharp. I never usually iron my fabric, but I would highly recommend ironing your letters and banners so that everything lays nicely. When sewing on the letters, I just eyed it, so mine aren't perfect, but similarly to sewing the banners, when you get to a corner, keep the needle in, lift the foot, and turn the fabric. Now for the ribbon part, you can use grosgrain ribbon or a bias tape. I decided to make my own bias tape from the fabric of my project. Making your own bias tape is easier than you think. You just get a long strip of fabric. I did mine about 2 inches. You're going to fold it in half, iron that, and then fold each of those 2 halves in half and iron those. It might seem counterintuitive, but you want one of those half pieces slightly longer than the other. First, made sure all the banners were the same height. Then when attaching the banners to the ribbon, I found the exact middle, pinned the banners accordingly, making sure the banners were all the way sandwiched between the bias tape. And then I sewed everything together and voila! If you've watched this video all the way through, first of all, thank you. Second of all, if you're thinking to yourself, wow, this is kind of complicated, I promise you it's not. When you decide to make your own, please, please, please send me a picture of yours or tag me in whatever you decide to make because you are amazing. Happy crafting. Mwah!